227, aka Duffield Street, right downtown, a few blocks away from here. So just, yes, give him a hand. Now, so that's what he decided to do for his half-century celebration. Half-century, and he looking good, looking good. So, very briefly, did I say briefly? Very briefly, I'd like to touch a little bit about the woman who fought so diligently and tirelessly to keep 227, and her name is Joy, and people know her as Mama Joy, and that's my mama, but she also belongs to everybody, because her love extended so far and so wide that I don't even know if I can ever fill her shoes, because she was extremely passionate about her family, her history, the history of the house, and her extended family. And let me tell you one thing, if you cross Mama Joy, that's the last thing you want to do. And the city obviously did not know my mama very well, because when they declared eminent domain on her property, she was not understanding that. She was not understanding that, and she was not taking that. And she said, that's my house, and I'm raising my children, and that's it. I'm not letting my house go. And upon fighting for the house, that's when she found out further research through her husband before he passed, and also doing research at Queens Historical Society, where she met Brother Jim, who is our historian. So she wanted to get the history from Brooklyn Historical Society, but for some reason, all of a sudden, coincidentally, they closed down when they found out the research she was doing. I don't know. They closed down for a few months, so that she didn't let that deter her, so she went down to Queens and also to a couple other states in Canada as well, and discovered the abolitionists who lived there was Thomas and Harriet Truesdell. So they were actually cotton brokers for not involving slavery, but where they actually maintained cotton through labor where they paid their employees, and it was through their company that they also hid the enslaved Africans in the ships where they were loading the cotton. When you go down into the basement, you could actually see where the tunnels were and how they connected from one house to another house to another house. When my mom, she used to give tours and lecture demonstrations talking about it, and it's actually very interesting. My mom recently passed away in January, so we're, keeping up the fight for her. We also do lectures and demonstrations. I can't compete with that one. We do skits based on, the enslavement of African people, and also we incorporate the Truesdells within that to give a little more flavor, and also to let it be known the trials and tribulations, and also the heroism of the abolitionists and the enslaved people. Because sometimes when you're removed from it, you don't have an idea how serious and how tragic and how intense and how cruel and brutal it is, and it was. It's a serious thing. So when, sometimes, our children, they know about slavery, but it's kind of like a myth to them. So the skit that we put together, it's really empowering. It's kind of shocking. We present it to children and adults, and they're looking and they just can't believe it, and it makes them mad. It hurts them, but at the same time, they're seeing it and they understand. And let me tell you, what you don't know can kill you, and it is our job to really let everyone know the history. And not only that, to know that abolitionists, there was a large community of Africans who had free towns in enslaved states. You know, a lot of people think that the majority of abolitionists were Quakers, white, and helping a fugitive that you see with a backpack on and barefoot and oh, please help. The majority of abolitionists were actually African American people. And one of the things that really stuck out when the archaeologist, Dr. Cheryl LaRoe, came to examine the house, she was paid from the city to, I guess, discredit my mom's words, but as she went through, everything checked off. There was water, a body of water near her house, check. There was churches that were African-based churches, and also a couple other churches, check. You have the Plymouth Church, and you also have Bridge Street Church, which is a few blocks away, and AME Church, African Methodist Church, which they have so many within the country, check. You also, there's a lot of times they have undesirable land in these free towns. Now, I don't know what would be considered undesirable. A lot of times the ground was rocky, or you know, it wasn't the best soil, or they were near a lot of caves and it was, you know, constantly wet. But you tie all of these things together, and the oral history that my mom presented, as well as the people in the community. You put all these things together and it makes common sense. You see the archway in her basement, and then you see the other homes, which some of them have been torn down because they were sold, and you see how it connected. We have a picture of an old map with the dashes on each house, and those dashes accounted for each house that had a tunnel in it. So, I mean, the ancestors are speaking. Everything, you know, things happened one after another. Things that my mom did not have all of a sudden would just manifest itself. So, and with the help of, Fury and Jennifer, what's the lady's name?
Yeah, there's a lot of people, we could throw a lot of names, but there's a lot of people who helped us out, and there's a group in downtown Brooklyn called Fury's Family United for Racial and Economic Equality. We have this woman, South Brooklyn Legal Services. There's a lot of people who really do care about this stuff, and you know, they keep battling away, no matter what the organization or the structure is, but they're there. So.
Yes, and with the community's help. One thing my mom always did that I'm learning how to do is anytime she had a little something, she would call the media. So, she was a media hound. She would get them out there and let them know her story. And once you know and understand someone's story, you can't help but love them. Now, I love that phrase. I actually got that from Mr. Rogers. But it's so true. It is so true. It doesn't matter who you are. Once you know and understand somebody's story, you cannot help but feel. And she was very adamant about getting her story out. And she always said, it's not my house and it's not my story, it's our story. And that's our house. So, she was able, we're going through a lot, even with the bank and everything, with this, we're going through, certain legal ramifications. And she actually, I guess like foreclosure court, she managed to discount their association with the note of the house. So it was dismissed without prejudice. So therefore everything, was fine. But when she passed away, they came out the woodwork. So they just weren't expecting her offspring to be just as fiery as her. And sure enough, when court date came, I was right there, and they were very surprised when I said defendant, and they were like, oh my God, you know, I mean, that, yeah, their expression was really hilarious. But there's, you know, we've been offered, like Raul said, there's many developers that have come to us, and you have to understand, there's certain things that are much more valuable than $1. And I know, you know, in this day and age, this society teaches you to be about me, just mine. Even the children now, they just play by themselves, and then, you know, it's not with everyone else. It's not a community. Well, my mother was about community, and we are about community, and community takes care of each other. And like I said, and it wasn't just about enslaved Africans, it was about indentured servants, it was about white women seeking freedom as well. So this is all of our story. This is all of our story. So like I said, it is our job to make sure we preserve this story. You can't pretend it didn't exist. If you do, then you come up with a lot of assumptions, and you don't. We need to dialogue. We need to understand what's going on and what went on. And from there, you see that we have a lot of things in common. A lot of things. I mean, I don't, that sister who came and talked about how the Germans came in. Well, that's another thing. I can't even talk about that once. I need to get some more info, then I'll hook you guys up with that. But it's, you know, when you tell your story, other people tell their stories, and it's so similar. And we need to really express that it is important to keep the history alive. So I have to let you guys know, I just love Raul to pieces. I just love him to pieces. Because it's very, you know, there's a lot of times where it's just really hard, you know, going through a lot of stuff, and just knowing that I have somebody who believes in this fight just as much as we do. Sometimes I look at him and I'm like, damn, you still all right? You still got this wrong with us? But it, you know, I really love that about him. And once he clenches his teeth into a movement, you better look out, because he's involved in several movements. And I don't know. I'm just gonna call him Mr. Octopus, because, you know. But the one main movement that he's involved with, I'm glad my name is attached to it.
Me too.
So, and I really want to extend my deepest appreciation and love to every single person that's here tonight, because that means you have a heartfelt belief in this man and our house. Our house.
Yeah.
Okay.